Hello, everybody. Oh, what day is it? Monday. Yes, Monday. Happy Monday, everybody. My name is Bear. I am barely watercoloring. That is my name, and that is my truth. Um, I am doing something totally new today. I typically only stream on Twitch, but I decided why the hell not, and I went ahead and set up the ability to stream from a few other platforms. So I'm currently simultaneously broadcasting on 5 different places right now, which is weird, really weird for me. So I've got Twitch, Instagram, YouTube, Picarto, which is a new one for me, and Kick. I expect exactly 0 people to be watching from everything except for Twitch, but hey, you never know. People might join in. Because of that, there's far too many up for me to be able to manage the dashboard and look at chat for everybody. So if anyone does pop in anywhere else, please, I apologize if I can't see anything you say. Um, I will try to pop in and glance at those if I have a downtime moment. But otherwise, I'm just kind of gonna blast through it. So today, what am I doing? Well, I've got 2 things planned. One for sure, one if I have time to get to it. Um, I've got this fun little space scene here. Uh, I asked week ago, probably a week ago, for ChatGPT to generate like a basic space scene for me, and then just kind of enhance on it. Do something simple at the same time, kind of enough information that I can turn it into something neater. And then I put it on my light box with some cold press paper on it and traced it. So this is the traced one on cold press paper. So I can paint on it. And this is all done with indelible ink, so I can paint on this and none of these lines will wash away. So I'm going to start with this. And then if I have time, the next thing I'm going to do is something I've done before. I'm going to do some abstract art on mineral paper. So if you've never seen mineral paper, please stick around for that. It can be a lot of fun if you've never seen anyone paint on it before. So let's go ahead and get started on this. I'm going to go ahead and tape up the edges of this. Um, I do have a clipboard, but I don't like painting on it anymore because it just falls apart when I put tape on it and it gets wet. And my only other thing I've got is a giant like wooden cutting board, and it would be gigantic and take up the whole table if I tried to use it. It would be comical, but it would be useless. So instead, I've got the back cardboard from a previously fully utilized watercolor pad, which is pretty thick and pretty sturdy and rigid. So I can tape stuff to it, and it will help me be able to have something portable but flat, so I can keep things from curling so badly. So I'm going to go ahead and tape this down on all the sides. Hope everybody's doing all right today. It's Monday, it's the beginning of the week, but it's the end of the day. So if anything was to happen, today's the day it would happen. Friday's the day we get to forget about it all, but Monday afternoon is the day where all hell breaks loose. Everybody just held out on their problems and decide to tell you about it on Monday when they need everything done, right? That's if you're in some sort of service industry. Other people can get away unscathed. I am not so lucky. Well, I'm pretty lucky. I count my lucky stars for what I've got. Right, that's the bottom piece. Right. Try not to smack myself in the face with the tape when I tear it. Line that up. Good enough. I don't want to be precious or perfect with this. Just want to get it taped down solidly enough so that stuff doesn't leak underneath. Right. Fold that over. Get the top piece. Anyone who is new, please feel free to take a look at my Instagram. I'm not just popping it for fun. I post everything that I paint there, the good and the bad and the ugly. So if you want to see all of my absolute failures, they're there too. Um, but the things that I'm proud of, they're there as well. So feel free to take a look. Nearly everything I do here goes there as well. So I try to, once everything is kind of finished off here, I'll post it to Instagram. So it's a good place to go to check out where everything's going. Just know I do not currently sell anything. I don't feel confident enough in what I do to sell. But someday, if there is a request for it, or when I feel like going through the hassle, I will set something up. What? I don't fully know. I've thought about it. I've considered a few options. Selling prints on paper, selling prints on metal, selling images on products, which seems really kooky to me. Unless it's beautiful, why would I put a painting on a coffee mug? I mean, that might be good, but or on a cell phone case. I thought about doing backgrounds, like wallpapers. Wallpaper seems like something that would be interesting for computers, phones, things like that. But, you know, people are fickle. Once you make something like that, they use it once, they don't pay for it anymore, they get rid of it, and the art's gone, the money's gone, they moved on to something new, right? But a painting that goes on the wall, you can't really get rid of. Once you committed to it, it's there. But I think it's a harder sell. So, I mean, probably doing a little bit of everything at some point. But for now, this is all out of pocket. Huzzah. I'm just paying for all this myself. Okay, so everything is up high enough, I think, where you can see it. Yeah. And the tape is down pretty well, so I'll let it do its thing. All right. Let me find somewhere fun to put the tape. You can go over there, buddy. Paintbrushes. I have many. Not as many as someone who's been doing this for years. I've only been painting for, oh, what month is it? June? Like a year and 2 months. So I am a baby still. But here is my brush collection, at least vertically. I've got a lot of Princeton brushes. They are my favorites. We'll show a couple. Probably the one we'll start with will be like a size 6 round brush. This is a Princeton size 6 round from their Heritage collection. It almost definitely will not focus, but I will try to show some of it. Yeah, there we go. Size 6 Princeton Heritage. And everything I have over here that I like is from the same line. From big to small. Here's a giant chonker. This one's a size 12 Blooms brush. It's mainly for florals, but you can use it for anything you want. Velvet Touch. I've got 2 of those. One was intentional, one was a gift from Amazon. We'll just call it that. And then I've got a couple of script brushes as well. And I've got like 4 sizes of round brushes from small to large, and that tends to be enough for what I do. I've got a couple fan brushes and a couple wash brushes as well. So when I need to do large areas of color, I can do that. All right, so let's get started. I suppose I can start on something simple and maybe do this little star over here. So I think I'll go ahead and try to fill him in. Before I do that, though, let me go ahead and wet my palette. Got a little spray bottle here, and I'm just going to spray some water on my palette to activate my watercolors. Activate, just a fancy word for wetting the pigment. The watercolor dries, and when you need to use it, you need to apply water to it. I could just apply water on my brush and just scrub like hell on the paint until it comes off. But that takes a minute to get going. So to kind of advance that a little bit or speed it up, you hydrate the paint before you use it. You activate it is what they call it. So you just spray it with some water, let it sit for about a minute or so, and the surface of the paint, obviously not anything deep down into it, but the surface will kind of soften back up again so that when you apply water, it'll spread into a consistency way quicker so you can use it. So I think, thinking this through, I don't have any dog hair on this, right? I do have a dog, and every now and then his hair just ends up in the air somehow and lands right where I'm working. So I try not to paint into it. So far, it looks pretty clean though. So starting with the star, I think I'll go with like a traditional kind of yellow dwarf star kind of thing. So I think I'll just go with a nice simple yellow color. Um, my entire palette here, um, you can see it on screen if you're on Twitch or Kick or Picarto because it's horizontal. But on Instagram and YouTube, I have it set to vertical right now. So here we go. I'll move that over. You can see it. This is my palette. It is mostly Mameri blue with a couple other options mixed in from Winsor Newton and like one other side brand. I have a full swatch and gradient of it here on my clipboard. That clipboard I told you about, that if I get water on it, it just starts coming up and turns into particle. But I have a swatch in front of me that I keep handy so I can kind of get a good gauge on what I've got on my palette and what it's going to look like. So I'll put this back over here. Whoa, and I'll try not to make a disaster of it. There we go. Tools around me. I've got some cutesy things just to make it look interesting. I've got a little egg shaker here of salt. So if I ever want to put salt on a painting to make that salt effect, I can do that at the ready. One thing I don't have in front of me, but when I need it, I get it, is soap. Soapy water, blowing bubbles on it and putting that on paper looks gorgeous when you paint with it. Uh, I'll do that again sometime on here so you can see it, but I've done it in the past. If you check on Instagram, you'll see some paintings of dragons. Those were done with that effect. It looks really cool. All right, I think this has been sitting activating enough. Let me go ahead and grab some kind of yellow on here. Okay, I realize I just wanted to go back and check all of the streams to see how they look. Everything looks good to a degree. I don't know how Picarto is doing because it doesn't seem to show a live image of the stream. So that's fine. We'll see how that goes later on. YouTube looks like it's doing well. Shows bitrate is low, but that's because that's what I set it to. Lower than recommended. Well, I'll have to raise that later. Apparently, Instagram likes 2500 kilobits per second, and YouTube doesn't. But I can't choose per stream. I can only choose per view. So Instagram shows like it's still only showing the title screen. Let me see if I can look on my phone if it shows it there. Again, first time I've done multi-stream to different locations, so let me just see how it looks. Assuming it even lets me. I don't know if it lets me look at my own. Probably not. I'm gonna say probably not. I don't think it does. No. Let me look at my browser. Any day it will log in, I swear. Insert. Why did I leave my keyboard so very far away? There you go. There we go. Okay, yep. I was quick enough to confirm that it worked. All right. I don't need to sit there and stare at it anymore. Let's go back to this. Sorry about that. Finally, the painting. It only took, what, 20 minutes to get past all the getting started. All right. So I'll start with a kind of bright yellow. And I'll put some over here so I've got some room to work. Keep it kind of transparent. Put some right here. Grab some more, make sure it stays nice and wet. Some vertical action going on there. All right. Some nice yellow going on there. Get a little orange in there. We do have one orange on this palette. It is an orange lake. Nice and thick. I'm just going to put a little tiny bit in here. It should be pretty wet, so I should be able to just add a little. Should just add to what's here without being too insane. Too insane in the membrane. Right. That should be enough. I don't want to go too crazy with it and make it really crazy dark or anything. Maybe a couple little dots to show like pops of color. All right. That was a swing and a miss. Right. And, I'm stupid. Let's do something crazy. Let's add a tiny, tiny, tiny little set of pops of red in there. Yeah, you almost can't tell it's there. Just little bits. Just to get like 3 different colors going in it. All right. Our planet. We have a planet like a gas giant with rings here, so it's kind of Saturn-like, but we can make it any color we want. What kind of color should we do? Um, all right, it's hot and I have iced coffee today. Normally I'm a hot coffee guy, but it's a little bit too hot for that. I would be sweating bullets if I was having hot coffee right now. So ringed planets like Saturn. Saturn's kind of got some dusty colors to it, right? But that's if we wanted dusty colors. We don't have to. We can make it green and blue if we want to, which isn't a bad idea. And we don't even have to directly follow in line with all of these lines, these striations on here, right? But we can. But how? I'm thinking I might do wet on wet here. Wet on wet is a technique where you do just what it sounds like. You wet the paper, or you have an already fairly wet painted surface, and then you apply wet paint on that. When you do that, you have a greater chance for blooming, so that you get those pretty little effects where everything kind of spreads out and mixes kind of neatly. Wet on dry is basically the opposite of that, and it's just, again, what it sounds like. You put the wet paint directly on dry paper. Because of that, the paint kind of stays where you put it until you mix in with it with other things manually. So wet on wet will give more of a streaky, blended kind of look to this. Whereas if I wanted to look exact colors inside of each of those lines, I would do it on dry and it would stay in place, which I can still do later. I could technically do a very thin, light first pass on the planet's surface, wet on wet, so that it spreads and blooms and is really light, and then let that dry completely, and then do some dry, wet on dry passes on top of it to make that darken up, which might be what I do because that'll look cooler, I think. But the colors, I'm thinking I might do like that idea I had. I might go a blue and a green combination because you don't really see that often. So let's do it. So what I'm going to do first then, I'm going to go ahead and mix in some colors in these wells over here in my palette and get some paint ready. Then I'm going to use a clean brush and I'll put water down on the planet. If I do the water first, it's just going to evaporate before I can get to it, and it'll dry all up and it'll be wasted time, right? Watercolor, you have to work fairly quickly while it's wet, or you're just going to be doing basically acrylic work in a way. It'll be even harder to control. And I don't know how to do that. I only know watercolors, and I only know like 10% of that. So let's do it. I already have some green on my palette, and I might just use that because it's a pretty nice shade. Let's what's there and see what it looks like. Kind of dark. I think I was using it for trees last. But I think I might kind of shift some of it over in a corner if I can, and make myself a semi-clean area and make something a little bit lighter and brighter to go down first. Trying to move it down doesn't always work. I don't need all of it out of the way. Just I'm gonna save some of it for in a minute. Yeah. Let's maybe go. Yeah, let's maybe do some yellow. This is I don't know how to say that one. Yellow vanadium. I think I'll go with that. Vanadium. Vanadium. I'm sure there's a better pronunciation of it out there somewhere. I'll put some of that yellow down, and I'll mix it with what's already there, and see if that gives me a nice kind of light green color. I think that'll work to start with. Yeah, I think that'll work. Let me get it a tiny bit wetter. And I think I'm just going to do a pass on the entire planet once I get it wet. After that, blue, I think I'm going to go with French Ultramarine or Ultramarine Deep. There's some really pretty, vibrant blue colors. It's these two right here. This is Ultramarine Deep, and this is French Ultramarine. French Ultramarine has a much richer blue color, but the green in the Ultramarine Deep is kind of prettier, and it'll add some more texture. I'll probably use that one, I think. Oops, smacked my mic. I'm doing all kinds of stuff. I just dropped my salt shaker. Let me see where it went. Oh, it didn't go far. It's the downside with the salt shaker. It's round, so it's very easy to knock it over, and it's going to roll away. So I'm going to put it somewhere a little safer. Let me put it over here on my desk. Okay, wet on wet. Let's go ahead and wet the surface of our planet, and then we can apply some pigment to it. Oh, no, wait, my blue. I'm losing all kinds of track. I think I decided on the Ultramarine Deep. I just wanted to look at the French Ultramarine. Yeah. Yeah, it's a little dark. I might use it afterward on top of it. for a second pass where I need it to be darker. Yeah, I think I'll do that. Yep. Okay, I think that'll work. All right, let's get some clean water on this. I think I've got that top section pretty well wet down. Let's get the bottom portion really quick. Bottom part of that little part. Might accidentally paint outside the lines a little bit on this, but it'll be all right. I just sop some of that up really quick. There we go. All right, let's go with our yellowish or yellowish green color we got going on in the corner here. Let's just kind of do a kind of a wash of a couple areas. Kind of hit it a couple times. Okay. Clean that off and grab one of our blues. A little bit of that ultramarine deep. Let's hit across the middle. And is it really light? It is. And that's okay. I don't really want it to be blasting off and be incredibly vibrant immediately. That can be way too freaking much, right? I have a bad habit of using way too much pigment all at once in the very first go at something, and then it ends up too bright and I can't take any of it away. So everything ends up being super saturated for no good reason. No, I don't want to do that this time. I'm gonna take my time, try to do things a little bit brighter, a little fainter. All right, get some spots over here that I missed. All right, we'll let that guy dry for a little bit. I think we'll come back to the ring once this section dries, and we'll figure out a color for the ring. For now, let's move on to our moon. He looks kind of fun, right? Moons have I would imagine like our moon is a very much brighter than you think that it is. In order to keep it bright, we'll probably need to not put as much paint on it, keep it very thin, at least on the side facing the star in the system. So the whole side over here, probably because this is so close to us and the star is far away, we're probably going to want to keep the leading edge as bright as possible and make this whole side on our end a little darker. But we're not going to do like our own moon and make it so dark that we can't see it. I'll still have it lit somewhat because otherwise it's not very impressive, right? So just to get it started, I think I will wet it down, but I'm going to wet everything except for a crescent if I can to try to keep a section of it totally pure. I don't know how that'll go, but we'll give it a shot. Excuse me one second. Just had to cough, didn't want to do it in your ear. Let me grab something to drink. Go. Okay. Let's go. Nice well of water in the middle of this. I think I will just do like a there kind of deal. And then just try to fill in the rest of the circle of this moon. All right. And I already have a good idea what color I want to use here. It's one of my favorites. I'm going to do indigo, but I think I'm going to do kind of a bluish indigo if I can. Get this with just a tiny bit more. Really try to get that kind of arc present in there. All right. Let's add some color, the water. This guy. I already have some in my palette. Get that crescent again and try to get an actual arc out of it. Okay. Realize that's on totally the wrong side of the planet. That's okay. We can just fake it and just do this section right here. Doesn't have to be a huge section of white. It can just be just a little bit. There we go. Let me try to add just a little bit more indigo into that. I have a little bit here I didn't get wet. Just a damp brush, try to lighten some of this up right here. Much darker. We hit the really dark side of this moon. I think that'll be good, and I'll need to let that dry so I don't keep messing with it. We can add some more texture to it in a bit. Oh, now the part I haven't really given much thought to yet, the rocket ship. Well, most rocket ships are silver, right? So we can probably go some shade of gray. Maybe do something special for some of the trim, little ring around this window, some of the trim on the fins, and then of course we'll put some good color in the flame coming out of the back. But most of the metallic portion, we'll just leave it kind of a silver color. I think that makes the most sense. And then the window, I'll just do like a pale blue color. I think we can do that. I think do turquoise color for the window, very lightly. I like the idea of using a blue for some of the flame, so I might use some of this ultramarine deep that I've got here. Do just the tiniest bit of the leading closest to the rocket part of the flame. I'll leave that to dry. Um, the gray, huh? Already got some up here. Let's see what it looks like when I mix it up. I don't know if that's the kind of color I want. Maybe just a pure black. Just thin it out. Yeah, I think that's good. But in similar fashion, I think I should probably do wet on wet for this so I can try to keep some of it as transparent as I can. And I'll go back in and add to the trim. Get some of this wing. While it's still wet, let's hit it with some of those grayish color. Darker. That's plenty dark. I think I'll come back to that after a minute, let it dry. Oh, I missed a whole spot right there. Uh, our star is okay. I don't want to go too far with that. We should talk about our rings. I imagine we'd probably just do a lighter color for the rings and add some dustiness to it. So I might go like yellow ochre and then kind of brown it up a little bit. Get some water on those rings. I hard to tell without a light over there to reflect, but I think that's wet. And if not, I'll fix it as I go. Let's add some of our yellow ochre to it. It's way too thick. Something a little bit darker. I will let that dry. We can do some more on the back of our little flame coming off our rocket. What is the next color after blue on the flame of a rocket? Is it a yellowish color or is it orangish? Research. So, hmm. And do like a bluish color, and then it does almost like a purple, and then it turns like a yellow red kind of color. It's not going to focus, but you can get the shade from that. Not going for perfection, but that's a good idea. Grab some more coffee. Check on all the streams, make sure they're all still running. Yes, looks like it. I love how YouTube's like, 2500 is not enough. Nowhere near enough. But it's like, it's in vertical format and they want it to be low for phones. So let me make up your mind. Oh, whatever. Okay. Um, okay. So I'm thinking let's wet the rest of this flame down. And I've got quinacridone violet reddish is what it's called. It's just fancy speak for a slightly red violet color. So let me do some of it. I don't think it's going to need much. Dry some of that off. And just hit it on the edges here, on the edges of the blue. Okay. Let's switch it up and go to a yellow one. Get some of that up near the tips. And last up, let's get ourselves an orange. And we're going to try to make it as thick as possible, and I really just want it on the tip of the brush. I'm going to dry that off. So I just want to kind of like the border between the violet and the yellow. I want to have just like a hit of oranges in there. Get some different color in there. Yeah, that's enough. Don't overdo it. I do it too much sometimes. That's all I want to do with it. Back away. Back away slowly. Back away from the spaceship. Okay. All right. I think for the pops of color on the spaceship, I'm going to go red because it's like a hot rod red color. Why not? Um, I think the most like hot rod red color I've got here, I think might be the top one here. This quinacridone red, if they're on top, seems like a nice red for the ship for the little accents. So I think I'll do that. I think it's kind of small stuff, so I really shouldn't use this brush. Let me switch to a smaller one really quick. I'll just go a size down. No, wait, that's my script brush. That's a little bit too small. This is a size 2 round brush. Let's wet some of that down. I actually need to refill that one. It's getting kind of low on my palette. Okay. And this one I'm going to do wet on dry because I want to try to get it in the lines better and not have it spread. I'm trying to get it nice and thick on the brush. Okay. Now I just have to be careful not to be stupid. So I'm going to start from the top left portion away from my hand and then work towards my hand so I have the least chance of rubbing my hand on top of something that I just did. You know, no wet paint. So let's try. Pretty, pretty little spaceship. And we'll do this top fin. I'll keep it kind of light there because that's where some light's hitting it. Right? And this one will add some red to this accent that's in shadow. All right. And then around our little cockpit window here. Not too shabby. I think our little rocket's looking kind of cute. Not bad. All right, clean that off. Since I'm already here, let's look at doing a couple tiny pops of additional color. Pops of yellow. And lastly, a little bit of that orange. I don't want to go nuts with it. I'm gonna leave that there. All right, let's clean that up thoroughly, and let's take a look at our planet again. I think it's time to get that second pass on there really quick. I think I'm going to continue with the wet on wet. Bottom. Let's go in strong. Let's hit with some much darker hits of green. Try to stay away from the poles. They tend to be a little lighter in color. I think that's good for the planet for now. I'm going to let that dry, and I will come back one last time, and I think I'll put some shadows on it. Let's look at our moon. Um, I think I'm happy with the color on it, but I think I just want to darken up craters and things like that. So I think I'm going to go back to my smaller brush. If I were a crater, I would want to be dark in the bottoms and along the wall more than anything. My life is about being in the dark when I'm a creator, at least the the back wall and a little bit of the floor, right? The little arcs of darkness. Not the whole thing, just bits, right? These are more on the bottom, so they can be more filled in. Also, crescenting the bottom of this really dark. I think that's looking kind of cool. Cold as space, you might say. Switch back to a bigger brush. And I do like indigo. Indigo is great for shadows too. So I say let's lighten up the indigo that I've got down here. Use this as shadow. So for the planet, we'll probably do the same kind of idea. Probably we're going to need a lot of this. A little bit darker. Darker still. Really hit the bottom side of this planet with some darkness. Just a tiniest touch of the bottom part of this. And then I think we'll cut across here for the ring and continue out of this way and shadow in our ring too. Because the planet's going to cast a shadow on its own ring. I'll leave that be. Again, my habit is to overdo it, so I'm going to stop there. Okay, so what would next steps for this look like? So this is where I tend to do things wrong. So if I like how everything I see here is, and I want to fill all the rest of this in with space, what would that look like? I'm sure there's a couple ways to do it, but I would think I would want to use wet on wet as much as possible. Once everything's dry, try to wet down the area behind and do a very light indigo across the whole thing. And then while it's still wet, darken up all the areas that aren't going to be overly lit. So everything away from the star is going to stay the lightest color because it's creating all the light. And then I'll do additional shadows the further away we go, and behind the planet where it's casting a shadow should be darker, and there should be light coming around it, and from behind the moon. But the spaceship I can probably leave alone and just have it be in like a middle blue color, so I don't make it disappear. But I need everything to dry first before I do that. But I don't want to wait, so that's what this is for. Heat gun, here we go. I think that's dry enough. Uh, so the problems. Well, partially this sun. It's so jaggy with all of the spikes here that getting water between them and not on them is going to be incredibly difficult. But it's the brightest thing in this little solar system, right? So that should probably stay more white than anything else. So I think if I do wet and a circle around it and don't put any of the indigo on there at all and just do it far away so that it fades toward it but not to the dry line, I think it'll be more okay. And then from there, I just need to make sure I get inside the rings next to the planet, around the planet, and then around the moon, and then as we get there, around our spaceship. But this is a large area to cover, and it's going to want to dry pretty quickly. But I need to keep it wet, otherwise my colors are going to be completely different between sections. So let me do this. Let me get a bunch of indigo ready. You can't see this if you're looking at this in vertical mode, but I'm just flicking some water into my palette on top of some indigo, so I can make a large quantity of the lighter colored indigo. Hopefully enough to do the job, because mixing up a color when you run out is almost impossible to get the same shade, right? I haven't done this a lot, but I've definitely found that that's the case. Okay, I think that's enough. Okay, and then let me get some directly in my indigo for when I want it to be darker. Okay, get that mixed. So that's good and dark. All right, so next up is just getting water down. I think for the sake of time and speed and coverage, I'm going to switch to a larger brush for that. I have these, I think these are Princeton as well. Yeah, it's a Princeton Heritage #1 wash brush. You definitely won't be able to read it. I can barely read it. Um, and I'm right up on it because it's clear. But it is there. The reflection is going to cover up all the naming on it, but that's what it is. So I'm going to get some water on here using it. Get it nice and full. And again, I'm going to go around the sun, but up against the planet. Try to go around the ring. I haven't had a chance to say hello to anyone who is hanging out there, lurking. Again, hello, my name is Bear. My username here is Barely Watercoloring because I thought it was witty, and it kind of is. I am a bear, if we want to go there in the gay community. I guess you can consider me that. But it's also part of my actual legal name and a nickname that my dad gave me. So I kind of just run with it. And I thought it fit. And with the username barely watercoloring, ha ha ha, I'm new at this. I'm barely watercoloring. You can say I'm barely doing anything. I mean, that's kind of the joke there, right? I was like having multiple meanings and things. Right up against that. Right. I couldn't do that. I have learned my lesson that this red bleeds like crazy. So I should try to shy away from touching anywhere there's red, because red paint tends to bleed. I haven't tested all of them to see how they do, but red has a really bad habit of ruining my day. I will add additional in here where I need to try to help the finer details not get too lost. So I'll have to switch to a smaller brush to add some additional water and when I start painting into this. But my problem is it's going to want to dry up before I can get to it, and that is a problem. So how am I going to take care of that? Well, the only way I know is by working fast, and that is like my kryptonite. Because to be fast, you have to also be good. And by good, I mean skilled and experienced. So, re-wet this top portion, make sure it stays wet up in here, and all the in-between areas, and hopefully that wetness will spread. Down here, get all of this area. Right, I better get moving on this quick or I'm not going to get anything done. Let me switch to back to my round brush. And I need to get some water in the middle, right here, here. Okay. Let's hit some of this before it all dries. Let's at least get a tiny bit of this in here. Filling in all the gaps. Can't talk a lot right now because my brain is focused on trying to be as quick and accurate about this as I can. If I yak, I might make mistakes more than normal. Darken up this well of water. Start darkening all this stuff up a little bit. That's away from the sun. And this paper, because it is so saturated right now, has definitely started curling. That's why we tape it down. Some people pre-wet their paper and stretch it, which sounds terrifying to me. But some people do it and swear by it. I say, good for them. Someday I might try it too. But that's scary and seems kind of silly. If you are uninitiated, I wouldn't dream of doing it. Someday, maybe, with paper I don't care about, just to see how it goes. But that's probably a problem because paper I don't care about will probably not behave as well as quality paper being pre-stretched. So I don't know. We'll see. Someday. It's full, especially to try to get up close to things like this and not overlap on stuff you already did in a way that screws it up. So difficult. I say this because I've not really been successful at doing this like this. So we'll see how it comes out. It's starting to run out. That's okay. I've got plenty of the darker stuff here, which is where we're going next. This is so much fun. It's totally not stressful at all. Let's stop there with that. He says as he goes back for more paint. While you're ahead. All right. What now? Says I. Well, let it dry. So let me grab my dryer. And hit that with the heat gun. I think I need a little bit more indigo in some of these areas here. Darken them up. Dark, make them brooding, make them a little cloudier. Hope that's enough. Okay. Last thing I think we can add to this that it needs are some stars. So how are we going to do that and not make a mess of things? Well, I mean, I can't promise that I won't make a mess. My stars tend to go everywhere. I supernova. However, I think we can work with it. Let me grab a little container. Where did I put it last? Oh, here we go. And yeah, some acrylic. I have some liquid watercolors, but I also have a couple liquid acrylics. This one is a white acrylic ink. Just as I thought, it's not going to focus. So sorry, it's there. It exists. I'm going to put a little bit of it in the bottom of this container. And the first thing I'm going to do is wet my toothbrush. Uh, get the tiniest bit of the brush. I'm going to blot it on my paper towel to get as much off as I can, because I don't want to get it everywhere. I'm just going to gently flick in a couple places. If I just go hog wild and do the whole thing, it's going to get on my ship. It's going to get on the planet. It's going to get on the moon. It's going to get on everything. Right, I'm stopping there because I know how this goes. I overdo it. To get all of it off my thumb. And I'm going to add a tiny bit more. I'm going to wet my smallest round brush with some water and get just a little bit of this acrylic on the tip. I'm going to use my large round brush and I'm going to whack on top of it and get some slightly bigger stars. I'm going to try to be very mindful of where I am and not get it on top of my ship or my planet or any of the large objects in the system. But if there's a couple, it's fine. Okay. I'm going to stop there with that. Put those up. And then let me add a little water to the bottom of this so it doesn't stick in it so badly or dry in it. So that I can get to it to clean it later. Let's go ahead and grab the heat gun and dry these stars. Okay. I think I can also grab my ruler and I have a white gel pen. We can probably throw that guy right there. Yep. And maybe we do one up here as well. A little. And then maybe one down here, because why not, right? Baby guy. That's it. Leave it alone. I'll leave this out, or I'll just go ahead and do it now, and I'll just sign it. And let's hit that one last time with the dryer. Just make sure it's totally dry because I'm really good at hitting stuff and I think it's done and I smear something and I get really upset at myself. So let's dry. Huh. I got paint from the paper towel on my arm. I was like, what's dry on my arm right now? Yeah, I got some. I got some paint, a little bit right there. So I'll hit it with some hot soapy water. I'll take care of that. All right. And now let's do the most fun bit that we ever do. Peeling is always the most fun part for me. So let's go ahead, find ourselves where the edge of the tape is, and let's start removing this sucker. One down. Always the bit that makes it go from feeling like a child did it to like I might actually be an adult that can paint. Every time, without fail. Like, oh, you can make crisp edges. You didn't just throw paint on the paper. You did it with intent. Sure, I did. All right. That part is done. Put that over here. Get rid of our tape. Take a look at that. I'm happy with that. Like with most things I do, are there things that I could have done better? Of course. Do I care? No. Overall, I like how it came out. We've got our little sun over in the corner, our planet casting a little shadow, our moon with its own shadows and its craters, and it's casting a shadow. Our little rocket ship guy there, he looks, I have to turn it sideways to be able to show him, with his little flame coming out the back, and all our little stars and everything. Yeah, it came out pretty good. I like it. All right. Well, we're at 2 hours right now. I think I will quickly prepare for what I'm going to do next, and I will knock it out really, really fast. Let me go ahead and scoot this guy over here. Let me scoot some things back, make some room, because what I'm about to do can get messy, so I have to rearrange a tiny bit. Move my little sushi. I've got little rubber sushi. And this is still wet, so I'm not going to fold it. I'm going to put it over here to get it out of the way for the moment. And it's been a minute. I'm going to snag some coffee. Again, iced coffee. Ah, good stuff. All right. Okay. So, the fun bit. What am I going to do next? Well, I don't have any examples directly in front of me. However, I might be able to pull up some pictures and show you on screen really quick. Maybe. Scoot it over here. Okay. Is there a full screen? I think there is. No, that's not it. That minimizes it. Oh, there's the full screen button. Okay. Oh, you know what? I did not put this copy over here. We're gonna uh, rearrange this a tiny bit. Put it up here. Pardon me while I do construction. Okay. And voila. There we go. So it's not aligned perfectly, but it's okay. This is an example of a hold on now, I have to do this on two screens. This is an example of doing a painting on mineral paper. So mineral paper has a totally different consistency if you've never seen it or used it before. It is not like standard paper. It's made from, it says stone minerals. I think there might be some kind of plastic in there, but I don't truly know. It feels like a plastic, and I'll show you here in a second. It behaves very differently than standard paper in that every single thing you do is wet and it blooms and it goes everywhere and it makes for some really beautiful abstract stuff. Really difficult to do some intentional stuff on it, but it does this kind of abstracts really well. So let me hide that. And over here, let me hide that. So let's try that. So I'm going to do a small one. The secret of it is I don't often do it on stream. However, I have learned that when I do, I need to do it at the end. Reasons. One, because it is like plastic, if I try to use the heat gun on it, it melts like plastic. Uh, and because of that, I can't do anything to make it dry faster. That being said, I have to do it at the end because it is so wet, I can't move it. Because moving it, tilting it, doing anything to it while it is still wet makes everything spread and drip and fall off the paper and just ruins it. So once I make it, it's going to have to sit here and I'll show it next time once it's dry. So that's why I have to do it last. Just so you know, this is the brand of mineral paper I'm using, Yasumoto. You can see it here. Shows that it can be used with all kinds of different media. So feel free to find that and use it when you can. It shows some samples of what it looks like, but you can look online, just look at people painting on mineral paper, and you'll find examples of what it looks like when it's done. But let's do one. Um, one of the things I love about it is it lets you be a little mindless and quick and still get results, right? So what do I have to add to it to make it? This stuff, this giant container I've got here, along with this white acrylic. This is a collection of mostly watercolor ink. Most of the brands are like this one here, Aquafine. I'll try to get at least one in focus. There you go. So this is Aquafine watercolor ink. This one is cerulean hue, a cerulean, pretty blue. Once I shake it, you can see it kind of goes into like a sky blue color. It looked way darker than that because it wasn't shaken. There's a lot of great colors in here, so we can look at them all. I've shown them before, but we'll look at them really quick. Take them all out and get ready. And I'll put back any of the ones I'm not going to use. Okay, so I'm not going to go in any kind of order here. I'll start with the one I had to begin with. This is an acrylic white. I use it mainly for stars, or if I need to do anything where I need to cover something up with white that I made a mistake on. I haven't really used it much for that yet, but I do have one that I can do from last week that this would be useful for. But it is useful for doing this kind of abstract art because it's nice to not just have different colors, but different consistencies. Because the way a thicker paint and a thinner paint or pigment work together can be way different than if they were the same consistency or they were just blend together. Instead, they will swirl together. You see what I mean? So this is a good one to do that with. Similarly, there is a silver. This one is truly like a metal flake type silver. So it's really good, good metallic. You can kind of see it on the bottom. It looks mostly white on camera, but once it's on paper and it dries and you see it shimmer like right there, where it shimmers in the reflection, that's partially from the glass, but that's also partially from that metal flake on the inside. So once it dries, it looks really pretty. Um, I'll just pick some up. This one is quinacridone magenta, just like that underneath. This one is flame red. This is a different brand. This one's an acrylic ink, not watercolor ink. So this one's similar to the white in that it's a little thicker and it'll swirl rather than blend. It still blends, but mostly swirls. This one's watercolor ink. This one's ivory black. So just black. This one is a different one. This one's watercolor ink, and this one is a indigo. Indigo. It looks almost black, but trust me, it is indigo. This one here is watercolor ink. It is ultramarine blue dark. Very pretty color. Might use that one. The blue we already looked at. This one's cerulean, a cerulean hue, kind of like a sky blue color. This one's also a blue color watercolor ink. This one's phthalo blue. It's a lot of people's favorite blue. I like it too. This one, no, we'll go here. This one is a green. Makes me think of Pokemon Leaf Green every time I see it. This one is literally called Leaf Green. That's why I think of it. It's a very bright green, almost neon. Next up, we have a yellow. This one is a cadmium yellow hue. It's just a bright yellow color. We got another like a reddish orange color here. This one's cadmium red hue, also watercolor ink. Kind of a red or a yellowish red. This one is a brown. It's a burnt umber, also watercolor ink. Looks kind of black. I need to shake it more. Yeah, more brown. And then last up is, I think Chinese white. Yeah, Chinese white watercolor. Yeah, watercolor. Make sure I'm not a liar. Just white. So clearly I'm not going to use all of these. They would all meld together into like a blackish brown color and it'd be hideous, right? So what I'm going to do and how I'm going to use it is a method that I learned from a watercolorist named Kendra Brazel. She has a channel on Instagram or a tag on account, whatever, on Instagram called Kendra Brazel Art. Check her out. What she does, she likes to do streaks of her ink in sections, right? She does like a line here and then a line below it with a white gap in between. And she'll do a little bit of each color in some spots. And then she'll go back with a different color and she'll fill some of the gaps and make them next to each other but not touching so they don't go in immediately merged. And she only does like 3 or 4 colors maximum at once. And then she'll wet one side of the paper almost completely, wet the other side almost completely, and then she'll go back with a really wet wash brush and she'll connect the dots, right? She'll connect the ink to the wet and it will bloom on its own. Then she may just zhuzh it a little bit to kind of wiggle it and get some flowing better into the water. And then she'll go across the top, go across the bottom, let it all settle. If there's any puddles forming, she'll use some pipettes like I have here to pull up some of the excess liquid that formed so it doesn't pool and really muddy too much. And then just walk away for like 4 or 5 hours and let it dry. It takes a long time to dry. So we're going to do that. So let's pick some colors. I don't need to go all around the color wheel because it'll turn into a muddy color. So we can pick some bright colors. We can go maybe the yellow. And we have some blue. And maybe some silver. Maybe the burnt umber. And hell, maybe even a white. Let's do some of that acrylic white that we had there. And let's just do these. Just for fun, right? So let me go ahead and put the other ones back. I have them ready to go for when I'm done. All right. So I've got some clean water at the ready. I've got my rinse water at the ready. I've got my pipettes at the ready. I have my paper. I use a rubber mat. This is a silicone mat. With I only have one hole in the bottom. I accidentally used an X-Acto blade on it, thinking it would resist it, and it doesn't because I'm a dummy. So I have a tiny little slit somewhere on here, but I don't really see it, so I pick it up, and I don't want to spread it by tearing it. But it doesn't leak, so I leave it alone. Um, but this is really useful for doing this kind of thing because it catches messes. I don't want to overflow on it too badly because after I go to peel it off later, any of that leaked underneath will make it'll stick to the back of the paper and it'll stick to everything, even when I go to put it in a portfolio later. So I'm going to try to be careful about not getting too much over spillage. So let's go ahead and get some on paper, some pigment on paper, right? So let me go ahead and grab, I actually have a large Aqua Fine, Aqua Elite. Sorry, this is a Princeton Matler brush. Mottler brush. I can't read. Aqua Elite, 1.5 inch. No, you don't want to? Okay, well, whatever. There we go. This guy. I'll be using him in a minute. First, let's get some color on the paper. So let me start with my. Hi, Goddess. Welcome in. Oh, let me show you what I did earlier. Um, I showed this off a couple weeks ago, and my other half was here, and we were trying to decide on what we were going to paint. And I had this one to the side on the back burner. I went ahead and painted this guy. Did a little star in the corner and kept it kind of light over there. I did the planet, did a little shadow behind it, the moon, did some shadows in the craters and behind it. Did the little ship. He looks kind of cute. I'll turn him so you can see him a little better. And then some stars and whatnot around the side of it, so it came out kind of cute. I like it. And I'm going to end with a abstract on mineral paper. Yeah, I did all that in the stream. I already had it outlined, or traced, so I didn't have to do that as well. So this was already ready to go. We had done the tracing off stream like a week or two ago to get some things ready to paint, so we didn't have to do a whole lot of work on stream. I might do that in the future as well. If I ever have something planned that I want to paint that I know I'm going to trace, I'll probably do the tracing off stream because it eats up almost all my time, and I don't have to have any of the fun time on stream to paint, right? So yeah, it came early yet though, 2 hours or so, and we were able to get this painted. Now, this is what we're going to end with. You've seen me do these. I'm going to do some liquid watercolor inks on mineral paper. Um, wow. I saw the delay on that when I slapped it, and I was looking at it in the preview on Twitch, and the camera shook when I slapped the table. I probably shouldn't slap the table. I think I won't from now on. Sorry about that. But yes, I'm going to do liquid watercolor ink on mineral paper. I try to save those for last because they don't dry immediately on stream, and I can't move them once I've started them. So I am going to do one now. We'll see what it looks like before it dries, and I will show it on Thursday at the start of the stream to show what it looks like dried. But we're going to make it now. I'm doing white. I have my silver. I have burnt umber. I have a yellow, cadmium yellow, and then I have a blue, ultramarine blue dark. So I've got these all shaken. It's not going to be wildly colorful, but I'm hoping the yellow and the blue will blend and make a really pretty green in the middle. So yeah, let's go ahead and get some on here. So let me start with the blue. You know, how that works. Let's do Put that to the side. Let's do our yellow. Actually, no, let's do a layer of brown between our yellow. I hope you're doing all right, Goddess. I saw you go online earlier in the week and on the weekend, and I was just too busy and I wasn't able to escape and be able to pull it up and watch it. I've been intending to look at the VOD, so I will catch up and see what you did. Same with Desert. Saw her go online on Sunday, and I was just not at my computer. And honestly, it's been really hot in the Seattle area, so I have just been sitting on the couch in front of the air conditioner just to stay alive. And it's not even like full on summer yet, so I'm sure it's going to be absolutely a nightmare when the full summer hits. It's like 90, 89, 87, somewhere in there. Okay, here's my yellow. Try to hit some of that on the side of the brown. And some right there. A little bit there. A little bit there. A little bit there. A little bit there. Get some more. Do a little bit there. There. A little bit on this side. Maybe a little bit more. Huge chunk of it there. A little dot. Right, and then let's hit it with our white and our silver and try to make some magic happen. We like magic in this house. Let's get a big chunk of silver. And there. And there. Last up, let's do our white. Wow, that's hot for up there. Though the other half of the state is arid, but those are attempts. Yeah, it's rough. I mean, you think I'd be used to it because I'm from Vegas, but again, everybody that is from there or hears someone talk about it, it's a dry heat. It's still hotter than holy hell, but it is better because it's dry. I just completely covered up that yellow. Okay, need a little dot right there. Right, let's stop before I ruin it. Let's hit this with some water. And never apologize for missing a stream. Sheesh, life happens. Thank you. Appreciate that, Goddess. And when listening, please check out on Twitch, Goddess Whispers. I'm not in front of my keyboard, so I can't easily dip over and do my sub thing. But she is absolutely, absolutely amazing. She streams both gaming during the week and craft streams where she sometimes watercolors, but mainly works with yarn. So crochet. Uh, absolute witchcraft to me. So I called her the Yarnmancer, and I kind of stuck. Absolutely amazing what she does. All right, so I am going to try to stay on the paper, but I'm going to paint just water as close as I can, but not touching any of the ink. And lesson learned, I try not to make this as heavy as I have been. Because the more water I put on here, the more it puddles, and it's hard to pick that back up again. All right, let me do some below. All right. Yeah, I think that's enough. Let's go ahead and get it all connected. Let's get some of this connected down here. What? I don't want to mess with it. I kind of like how that looks already. The more I fiddle, the worse it gets. So I'm not going to fiddle. After all, I'm not a fiddler on the roof. I have not watched that forever. Fiddler on the Roof. It's a good show. Very Jewish. Um, are there any huge puddles that need picking up? Maybe. We try. There we are. Oh, and you'll find this fun, Goddess. I am doing something totally wild and different. I am streaming not just on Twitch, but I am streaming on 5 services at once right now. Call me crazy. I am on Twitch right now. I am on Instagram. I am on YouTube, Kick, and Picarto, which apparently is a streaming service just for creative or like artists. So I thought, hey, let's make an account on all of them. And yeah, Meld Studio lets you stream to all of them simultaneously, and they don't charge you like Streamlabs does. Streamlabs, we just looked it up earlier, and it's almost $30 a month to use their service to unlock that same ability. And Meld Studio lets you do it for free. So, um, and it seems to be working well. I glimpsed at Instagram earlier, and it was running, and everything else seems to be running smoothly as well. I'll check the VODs on them later to see how smooth they are. But yeah, everything seems to be running perfectly. Good bit rate. YouTube was complaining because I'm using on Instagram and YouTube, I'm using vertical orientation. I'll take a screenshot of it for you so you can see what it looks like. Doing both at once from the same system. But yeah, it seems to be working really well. Let me drink some coffee. I'm starting to get froggy. Yeah, I'll pop that in Discord later so you can see what it looks like. This one's starting to puddle. Anywhere it starts getting kind of brownish and starts kind of showing a puddle forming, I try to suck all of that up with a pipette. Because one, it is ugly. Well, not ugly, less beautiful. But also the puddles make it where it doesn't want to dry as quickly, so it takes even longer for it to dry. I really like making these though. I should do them more often on stream. It's just hard because I have to like complete what I'm painting for the day and then make time to do this at the end because it has to sit and dry pretty much all evening. I wonder if my pewter can handle that. I don't know. You're only going to know by trying. Clearly, I would try doing two at once and not five. I just leapt to five because I'm on a gaming computer that I think can handle it. Um, but worst case scenario, eventually it can. You know it exists, right? That's the important part, knowing that you can and like increase your reach and all that. And I'm not really, I don't have a way to properly look at all of the dashboards without literally stopping what I'm doing and going to look at it. So I've not been able to really pay attention to all of them yet. But I'd only just, like, I already had Instagram and YouTube I use exclusively for posting my VODs from Twitch. But I went live there as well. And Picarto and Kick are totally new for me. So I had no people that are viewers that I know of. They would have to find me completely by accident. I may not even set them up right. So I'll have to go check them later. But I mean, everything seems to be running. I just have to, find people. And I hate doing the whole, like, go out and find people that do what you do and follow them and be like, hey, well, follow me. I do the same thing. I hate doing that because it feels gross, but how else do you get yourself out there? I hate it. I don't want to be that person, so I try not to. If I find someone and I raid them, I do it just to raid them because they're online and doing what I like. And then I'll hang out with them and I'll chit chat for a couple minutes and then I'll back off, and let them do their thing. If they ask based on like my username, it's kind of obvious that I watercolor. But if they decide to ask or say, hey, put your socials in or something, I'll say, yeah, I do stream here. I just post my work on Instagram when I'm done. And I'll post my Instagram link. And half the time people are like, okay, thanks. If people want to, check it out. And then other people will be like, stop the stream. We're going to go and look at this right now. And then it's like, great. That's not embarrassing at all. Take a look at all my crap. They don't do a great job. Let's watch it on stream. But no, people are really genuinely sweet about it. So I'm very thankful. Exactly. See, I'll only like to do it with other small streamers because you know that it helps them too. Exactly. It's totally true. I mean, it's it's one of those things where really big streamers, it feels almost like an insult. Like you're rating just to get followers, like free follows, and that doesn't work unless you're like a longtime watcher of that stream and you communicate and you're there and someone like thinks, "Hey, wait, do you stream?" Yes, I stream. I try not to talk about it, but I do. And then they'll go look at it and bring it up, and sometimes that could be what sets you off, and sometimes it's just creepy and weird and annoying. But I don't know. I just say let it all be natural, let it flow, let it do what it does. It might be great, it might become a good thing sometime, and then it might not. So I just oh, I don't have the balls to rate a big streamer. No, me either. I would never. It just feels rude, right? Unless you're someone at their level, or like I said, like you're a regular watcher. Like you communicate, you crack jokes politely, you interact, you ask valid questions, you give valid answers, you participate, right? I think if that happens and like they're coming online and you're online, you could probably rate them like once, maybe twice, once you've ingrained yourself into the community and because you care about it, not because you're trying to get follows. I think if it comes from the heart and comes to the right place and they're okay with it when people do it, that's fine. I mean, after you've been with them for a while, you kind of get to gauge and know who they are and what they allow, you know? So, you know what though? I don't interact with the big streamer chat because it goes by so fast. I just can't keep up. Yeah, the big ones, big, like the multi-thousand ones, you disappear. They've got their crazed fans, and you're never going to be heard. And quite honestly, do you want to be? I mean, it just doesn't really matter at that point. I just lurk. And not even on this account. We've got another Twitch account that's our main that we watch everything on for the people that we watch. And then here, I almost never watch people except for you and Desert. And every now and then, when I'm bored, I'll go look for other artists and I will pop in and watch them and sometimes talk. And that's when I'll follow them. Um, and that's how I found you. That's how I found Desert. That's how I find quite a few other people. Um, and it's a slow thing, right? I'm not here to grow an audience of thousands, that feels foolish and weird, right? I just enjoy doing what I'm doing for fun, and if people want to watch my craziness, they can watch my craziness. So yeah. Um, whoa, I left that wide open. How do I get out of full screen? Oh, that one. Oh, easy. Oh, that was so easy. Okay, good. Yeah. Oh, and let me take a print screen for. Great. Great. Share that. Be nice. Go. Goddess, I just shared that in the Discord, so you can see that. At least a screenshot of what my streaming currently was like. There's no passwords or anything, so I felt fine sharing that with you. Um, yeah, it's pretty neat. It's fun. It's only showing 4 of the outputs up on top that I'm streaming to, and then it scrolls down under that. So regardless, it's working. It looks like it's running smooth. It seems happy. They're all online for the same time periods. Yeah, it's neat. Okay, well, I think I'm gonna stop yakking. This came out really cute. It's clearly got time to dry. Like I said, um, I'm gonna let it do its thing and dry, and we'll show it on Thursday. And maybe we'll make some more. At some point, I'd like to do like a whole bunch of them and do like a really short stream, just to get them rolling, and then come back on later or the next day or something and show what they all look like dried. Maybe just take ones this size and cut them into quarters, 4 pieces, and do a bunch of them all at once of all different kinds, so we can see what a whole bunch of these look like all at once. I think that's a good future goal. So I think I'll stop there. It's getting late. I try to stop around 2.5 hours. That's where I'm at right now. Again, this is the first one that we did. This little space painting, little rocket ship, and our planet, and our moon, and our sun, and some stars. That came out really cute. I like how that came out. Later on, I might add in pen a little dude right here. So that would be kind of fun. Um, and then this middle paper one, which has to dry for some hours. So I will show this again on Thursday. Um, do you see your chat in Meld, or do you have to use Twitch Stream Manager? Both. It's a recent feature they added not too long ago where you can see chat in Meld, but only for Twitch. All the other side ones that I've added are additional, and there's no base chat feature in Meld Studio for those. Um, at least I think. Let me click on it and see. Yes, it's only Twitch. And I'm not entirely sure if it lets you do like the sub thing. Let me try really quick. Oh, it does. It doesn't autofill the person's name, so I had to type it all out. But it takes the command, just as if I had done it in the Twitch chat, in the stream manager. So you can see that came through just fine. And I did that from the Meld Studio chat. So it doesn't autofill people's names. You got to spell it right. But all of the commands work. So yeah, totally usable. I still have a separate window open with all the other 4 places that I'm streaming at right now. So yeah, peeking behind the curtain. Oh no, it's fine. I don't care. I'm sure I'm so small that nobody's going to care when I'm talking about the mechanics of things that we're working with. But yeah, I think that is it. I'm going to go ahead and call it there. I got 1 painting done and 1 on the way. These are great because they are abstract and wild. At some point, I may go through and like repost all of the mineral paper ones that I've done to show what they look like, because they're all different from each other. They're all completely different. Oh, and at some point I need to gather up all the most recent stuff that I've done and scan them. I've not done that for a while, so I need to catch up on all the ones that I don't have scanned, so I can have a copy of them in high res. All right, I'm going to stop yammering like I like to do. I'm going to go ahead and end right now, here in a couple of moments. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. Goddess, of course, as always, thank you for hanging out with me. I will be back on Thursday. I thought today I might play a game, but it was a little hot, so I decided not to. But I might do that on Thursday. We'll see. It depends on what the temperature is. If it's cooler, I might play a game because it's also going to warm up the room a little bit with the computer heating up. Just puts off heat. Can't get away from it. But if not, I'll figure out something to paint. We'll see how it goes. So painting or gaming, it'll happen on Thursday. Yeah, meet me back here for I'll probably multi-stream again unless there are problems with it. Otherwise, the main experience is on Twitch. Everything else is extra just to exist in other places because I can't look at all of them. But I do look at the Twitch chat. So yeah, please hang out at Twitch. I'm there, barely underscore watercoloring in that place. Same on Instagram as well. Check out Instagrams where I post all my photos when I am done. Once these two are dry, I'll put them both on Instagram as well, so you can look at them there. All right. Have a great night. I will talk to you all later. And goodbye. Bye. 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 Bye.